Probably I'll have to write in a bigger letter. Is there anybody other than electronic screen? Anybody? Any other screen? All are from electronics and communication. Right? So all of you, I presume all of you must be having some background. You must have already studied quantum process. As a separate paper, how many people have studied quantum process as an individual paper? You have a MTech course, you have a paper, right? You already studied, right? Just, can you put up your hand? Just want to know. What's it? Okay. What's your specialization? Communication. Have you seen? Should be up, but a lot of feedback is there. That's why. No, it's okay. Oh. Yeah, I was teaching CET and NIT Calcutta nearly 10 years. Then I left. Almost 10 years since I left. Last 10 years I am not teaching. Really interesting. So it's a long way off. But someday I was related to this subject, random process, after a very long time. One thing is, when I was teaching signal processing papers or communication papers, if you remember, the old timers, you remember that the random process part was one module within 4th semester communication, where you learn AM, FM, all those things. Then you have some random process, which was intended to support your derivations on noise calculations, SNR calculations, noise figure, etc. But they were not really, it was not done properly. Many reasons. Most of us, the old timers, for us the prescribed textbook was what was that name? I am forgetting. Populus. But that was not a good book. I learned from Populus when I was in B.Tech. So later, as you teach, you get to know that this paper is very important. So I consider these two papers, linear algebra and then random process, or what we call stochastic process, to be two of the most important papers. Okay, there are other papers like signals and systems, is another paper, which form the core foundation. Okay. There are other papers, but they come at the next level. But these three papers, is there maybe I was missing one more, like other things like the network theory or something like that. But network theory and signal systems are more or less similar. They share a lot of things except for feedback. So among these three papers, they are all connected also. If you know linear algebra, then it is easier to learn signal systems. I think yesterday it must have been clear, right? Murali was teaching. Tomorrow I think you will be covering that, right? And also, when you teach systems, you are going to treat it based on linear algebra, most probably, right? Yeah, okay. Even random courses, I think that you can teach random courses worked up from there, but I am not going to do that today. But anyway, this is one of the very important papers. So, from 1998 onwards, so long back, I have been trying to make it as an individual paper, full paper for BTech. I didn't succeed, but finally in 2003 we succeeded in, long time back, 14 years back, we succeeded in Kerala University. We brought it as an elective paper for 5th semester students. Still continues, I think just moved to 5th. Yeah, still it is in 5th. So it is a full paper, but only elective. Luckily, all the good students used to take this course. And there are some very good books that has come afterwards. So most of my notations today I have taken from a single book. Okay? I have to do that because I am not teaching for a long time, so I keep to a single notation. If I go to some other notation, I will start confusing. If you are teaching, then the converse. So the best book for that is there are so many books, but this is what I found to be. If you follow this book, it's like a story. Then you won't have to change your notation at any level. Okay, only this notation will be fine, and all the concepts are derived perfectly all right. This particular book was this is called Gray and Davidson. Learn to write with ethics. Gray and song. The title is not probability or number. The title is Introduction to Statistical Signal Function. So, probabilistic signal processing is what the subject is. Okay? We may call it as random process, stochastic process, or whatever. In this context, this is what it is. And this book, 2004 edition, is really available. Means it didn't go to print. In fact, it went to print only in 2007 or 6 or 7. Okay? For 4-5 years, or more than that. Okay? It was available as a soft copy. It was freely available. So even now, if you can search it, you will get a PDF, that old one. So after it goes to print, probably other editions will come out. But I think since it remained in the domain, open public domain for so long, it just process and all notation, everything, all corrections are already happening. So that book is sufficient. So for a quick get started, I will ask a simple question. It's very simple. Okay, if you have an amplifier, and it's just a symbol, okay, some electronic circuit, and you apply an input, let's say sine wave or something like that, then you expect a maybe amplified sine wave here. Okay, but the common problem is that you may not get it like this, maybe a noise. That's the most, it may be a thermal noise, okay? Some noise. Let's say it's a thermal noise, maybe a Gaussian distributed, more or less asymptotically uncorrelated, or some kind of noise which is usually found, Gaussian distributed noise. Then my question is there some simple way to remove this noise, or at least to reduce this noise? Is there some simple way? I'll suggest a name kind of way. If you object, then you should tell me why it may not work. Okay, or partially works, then you should tell me. So that's where we start. So what I suggest is, in the absence of any input signal, what will you expect as the output? You will expect nothing, right? It's flat, no signal. But the noise will still be there. Even though there is no input signal, there is some noise. My question is, if you observe this noise for some time and record, okay, you store it, then is there some way by which we can use this recorded noise to remove noise subsequent observations of signals? Is there some way we can use it? Okay, what has happened is this noise happens somewhere in time is recorded, and we can use it. For example, if this is xt, and let's say nt, then something like this plus xt minus nt. Will you get a sinusoid with less amount of noise or completely remove? Will it completely remove the noise? Subtract it? Will it completely remove? Remove or no? Will it remove a little bit? Will the SNR be improved here or not? Don't look at my diagram. I don't know how it will be. I thought it may reduce. I am writing this. Maybe it will increase. I don't know. Or see, there are only three possibilities. Either it will, the noise quantified in some way, SNR let's say, remains same, or it improves, get a better SNR, or it degrades. There are these are only three possibilities. So which will you support? Will it improve? Should improve, right? Why? Is there anybody who challenges this? Means, okay, we are going with the hypothesis that noise will improve, noise will reduce. Anybody who challenges this? This is the first small question. So let us get this straight. And okay, why do we expect it to improve? Okay, some noise may get removed. Then why do you think that complete noise will not get removed? Because it is noise, it's unpredictable, right? Right? So this noise here on this interval, on an interval when we recorded it, may not be exactly same as sound because they are unpredictable. Then why do you expect it to reduce the unpredictable? Just by one thing, say instead of nt, I am subtracting nt, right? Suppose I shift it, okay, I have minus nt. So it will look the same way, only thing is all the positives have gone to the So if I start with this as my recorded noise, with no loss of generality, it's again a noise. Okay? And if I had subtracted this, if I look at this equation, this is in fact xt minus xt minus xt plus minus nt. Okay. So this signal, if I call it n dash t, noise, this is in fact what you are getting is xt plus n dash. So in fact you are adding noise. Right? This xt already has some noise. Now you have some recorded noise, you are adding to it. So is the noise performance going to improve or degrade? If you add noise, it will degrade. It's completely opposite. So your intuition didn't work there. This is the correct thing. You cannot do anything with the noise unpredictability. Whatever you do is going to degrade. Okay, if you subtract this subtraction and addition are on the same. It doesn't matter as far as this is concerned. Because we assume zero mean, okay, or usual noise, white noise or something. Okay, so what do we learn from this? Means noise is very tricky to play with it. Okay, means this is not the usual techniques. You forget all those things. You try to learn to do things in a different way. But that different way you already know. Means this lecture, because most of you already learned these things. I am only just being aware of that you are doing it different. And what is the essence of doing it different way? What is the essence? The usual signals, how you add and subtract controllers, how you treat noise or random signals, what's the difference? Where is that, or how do you view a random event? See, it's a signal. Yeah. It's a signal. So to make it simpler, okay, if a signal means, see, if you focus at time t equal to t1, let's say, at this time, then if you look at this noise, I'll amplify it a little bit. At time t equal to t1, at this instant I am looking at noise. So if you look at this, so there is this value. Okay? Okay? It's a single real number. If I assume it's a real valued signal, then this value is just a real number. So what is random about it? What is random about it? If you look at the signal, it's just like any other signal you have drawn. So what is random? Is there anything random? So in fact, I'm not talking about any very complicated things. I'm only coming to focus on how exactly, what's the difference between the way we generally work and the way we look at it.
You won't be able to predict the value.
Yeah, you won't be able to predict the value. That's the thing. It's unpredictable at this point, but if you look at this curve, then there is nothing unpredictable. See, you cannot just say unpredictable and then everything should work out here. You should not go somewhere else. So how does it work out here? Either this description is not representing the random process, or there is something we miss here. The correct answer is this curve alone is nothing to do with the random process. This particular curve is one signal which we observed, we measured. It's not the random process. It's just one signal which we measured or we saw. There's nothing random about it. Once you see it, there is nothing random. Okay? So where is randomness coming? But there is randomness. Randomness comes if you suppose you have observed up to here and you want to know what is the predicted value here, means it does not happen. Then there is unpredictable. That's one way to look at it. Not the past, but the immediate future. Maybe the whole modeling work is going to tell how to predict or how to make some assumptions about that. We'll come to that. So this is one way of looking at it, but that's fine. This is nothing wrong with this. This is correct. But let us not go to the future. Stay in the present itself at this moment. At t equal to t1, suppose we are here. Okay, it happened, but there was always, okay, it just happened, but there was no way you could have known it before, right? If you were in the past. So the same thing, okay, I just want to come to this one. So what were the other possibilities? There were so many other possibilities. That's when the uncertainty comes. Uncertainty means there are a lot of possibilities. One of them happened. Okay? So if you consider the entire possibilities into your context, if you bring all of them here somehow, then that will be a description. That will tell how the randomness is. Okay? That's one way to address it. So what are the other possibilities at this point? The value could have been here or 0 or somewhere else. All these values are possible. Okay? In fact, in this particular case, it's something, maybe I'm looking at a voltage across a resistor or something like that. It's continuously varying everything. So all kinds of values are possible. So there are infinite values possible. In fact, uncountable non-infinite values possible. Okay. So if you look at the whole time instances, maybe the signal was like this or like this. So many possibilities are there. Okay. So all these crossings are possible at t equal to t. So I can't draw all of them, but you think there is an infinite set of possible signals. Nothing has happened. Okay. That's you have to name, you give some names, usually the name uses ensemble. Okay. So it's like a thought experiment. Okay, like all those thought experiments, Gedanken experiments, Einstein experiments. I mean, you can't go and do things. Relativity and all. So he thinks of experiments. They're thinking this. So same way, all the signals we maybe theoretically we can predict that. Theoretically, suppose we reach a place where we know the distribution, then we know that okay, how many, not how many, in fact how many. What's the? I'm jumping a little bit here. It's a distribution like this. So more points are possible here. Okay, there is a density. So density of how this point comes. But whatever it is, there is an ensemble on which we have to work on. Okay? Just working on one signal will not work. But when I say this, we will look at the entire ensemble. There is also a way to work with statistical things based on a single observational wave. What we make the connection? We have just only one observation. In fact, when you really do experimental study, okay, you have only one observation. Okay? Unless you have identical systems made hundreds of thousands of them, and then that's not possible. So effectively, finally, again going to the last theme. In fact, you may have only one signal measured, just like our first one. But will we be able to tell anything, any important parameters extract out from that single signal? Is it possible? It should be possible because that's all we have. Like when you measure, we make a system, and then you know there are some variables which you need to observe, and there are some noise, statistical. You observe it for let's say 1 hour, you record that. You say a time series data, you have a time series of 1 hour. Or climate, for example, you have parameters, temperature, all over the globe. So each point you can say it's a sequence, time series. So from that time series you predict. So how is going against what I am saying? In fact, that's also there. One thing is the time behavior, the single observation, single realization. Okay, somehow, under some conditions, gives us the same results, values, as the theoretical parameter that we pull out at a single moment. See, at an instant, on an instant, if you want to pull out some numbers from that, some descriptions, then we have to do it theoretically. Because if you observe there is only one point. From one value, how many values can you pull out? Only one value, that value. You don't pull out anything. Okay? So your all studies, all results are based on analytical, theoretical. Okay? That's all major first part of the study. But then this is experimental thing, it's time averages. Okay? So something like this, okay, before we go. If I if you observe it for long, let me draw another one. Okay. Now you see some pattern, just look at it, okay? I try to bring some pattern where very high values, either positive or negative, are rarely achieved. they are less probable. Whereas most of the values are around 0. So if I make a averaging over this, suppose I am looking at this, just this alone, just this realization, on realization. How can I answer questions like what's the probability? See, this is in fact a loose way of talking, but just to get an idea about it. If I ask what's the probability that values will be so values will be above a particular threshold, okay. Let's say 2.0. How to do it? You see all those intervals for which goes above that, then divide by the upper interval, okay. Something like that. So there are time averages, so that's level. Or if you want to find out the mean value, you add all the points and then divide. You find the average over the time. So you will get the time average, which we call it. This is the function. Usually this is how it is. So it's a in the text. At the same time, when I am talking about the averages which are expectation, I am not talking about this. What I am talking about is at any point you look at all the possible signals. All kinds of signals. Similar signals are there elsewhere. At this instant, so in some way intuitively you think that all these values somehow occur around this across the screen. If you look at all the different possible things, then they will somehow kind of represent this. Somehow it's not clear why it should it at all. Okay? So it's not clear. It looks like, okay, and we have a feel that maybe if you have, but why should it? Okay. It won't happen if, for example, if the resistor is getting heated up, then what will happen? The variance will increase. Okay? So under certain conditions where things are happening and some kind of stability is there, these words are not correct. Okay? Then probably this expectation, ensemble averages and time averages match somehow. They give the same values. And that too only asymptotically. If you take only averages up to 1000 numbers or 10,000 numbers, they are not going to be. Only when n equal to infinity. So only when time is, we take averages, very large values, then probably there is somewhere. So such theorems, such theories are called ergodic, mean ergodic theorems and laws of large numbers and all those things to deal with that. So they are important in understanding, in the theoretical sense, they are very important in ergodic theorems, laws of large numbers. At least I think towards the end of the class, probably towards the middle of the class, we will have at least look at one ergodic theorem of law of large numbers, just to get the brief. But before we reach there, there's a lot of basic stuff which we need to know. I think most of you may be knowing, but some kind of review is needed. I don't know whether everybody knows, everybody else remembers. So let us do a kind of review. Okay. So the whole thing is, the review is about this ensemble. Okay. All kinds of signals are there and how to look at this ensemble and how to do the averages over this ensemble. So there is a framework or there is a framework on which it is built up. Okay? Framework, I don't know what to say. There is an axiomatic approach to doing it. Okay? Any means, the modern mathematics is all about axiomatic approach. Yesterday also, if you look at linear algebra, you start with basic, very basic things, right? You start with the vector space, but before that you maybe started with groups, right? They're very primitive and very abstract things. In fact, groups are based on set theory. So the base, everything comes from a set theory. Okay? So modern mathematics is like this. At the top level, you have the geometrical concepts. Okay? And the geometry is explained using calculus and analysis. We already done it. Geometry in terms of analysis and algebra, like Cartesian planes, for example. All those things that you in Cartesian plane, and if you bring in inner products, then you have analysis. Okay? Because you have angles and you have lengths. The moment you have metric on top of that set, you have analysis. Okay? But all this analysis again interpreted in terms of algebra. Then the algebra is interpreted in terms of logic. Logic in terms of set theory. So at the foundation there is sets. That's the status. And set theory itself, so this also kind of starting from the basic set operations. Right? You already know. So you basic set operations and then functions defined also, measurable functions defined on sets. That's the starting point. So the what set is important here? If you look at time t equals to t1, okay, at this point all those values. So in this case there are a set of real numbers, real values. Okay, all those values that the signal could have assumed at that point. That's a set. So that's the basic set which we call it. Or as far as this t equal to t1 is concerned, that's the sample space. Okay, that's the sample space. So to those structures, I think the event space, all those structures are very clear to you. But one simple discrete example we will examine. Okay. What are the simple examples that you start learning when you start learning probability theory? Yeah, throwing a coin, throwing a die. Okay. Then cards, deck of cards. Okay, then you can add a pointer also in continuous case. There is a pointer which is fixed here with double ball bearing, let's say it's free to move, and there is a, and you rotate it, and the angles are marked as 0 to 2 pi. So if you rotate it, at some point it will come to rest. Let's say it came to rest here. So it's some angle theta. That theta is, that angle theta is. Now you can ask all kinds of questions. What's the probability that it finally comes to rest in this quadrant? Okay. So if it's a fair pointer, it's an ideal pointer, meaning everywhere it is same friction, uniformly friction, and you rotated it in such a way that it mainly rotates afterwards coming to rest, then there is the probabilities up to this is pi by 2 divided by this 2 pi. So it is 1 by 4. So any region, probability of a pointer coming and resting in this region is given by this arc length divided by the torque, proportional. And the probability that the pointer comes to rest exactly at an angle theta 0 is 0, because it's a single point which has no measure, zero measure. Okay, something like this. This is one ideal experiment that we do. But let's take a finite here. Let's take coin is the sample space is too small. Only let's take die. Okay. So a die has 6 faces. So if I name it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is fine. Okay, then let us name it that way. I would have named it as the faces of some animals or some other thing. If it is children playing with the die, then they will like that, which are numbers. Okay, so let us say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all the possible outcomes, if you look at all the possible outcomes, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I say the outcome is 1, then 2 is not possible, 3 is not possible, nothing is possible, not possible. Whereas if I had told the outcome is an even number, then it can be decomposed further into 2 or 4 or 6. Okay? So an even number, outcome is an even number, is an even number coming in top is an even, but it is a compound even. Whereas just singleton 2 is on top, means it cannot be decomposed any further. Right? Just like here in this pointer example, pointer coming to rest at θ1 is a singleton event, whereas pointer coming to rest in this region is a compound event. It consists of uncountable number of singleton events. So you understand what's a singleton event or elementary event, and so in the die throwing experiment, the sample space is 1, 2, 3. Okay, since you know these things, let's go a little faster. So this is the sample space. So the sample space is, for a definition's sake, let's say it's the collection set of all elementary events. All elementary events collected together. Now, I said events, okay? So there are events like 1, event 2, event 3. This is singleton events. Then you can have, what are the other events possible? 1, 2, 1, 3. All events where there are either this or that. So how many will be there? Yes. No, not just 1, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, everything. So 62, right? 62. Right. How much is that? 16. No. Only 6. So this is 6 events. 6. This is 15. This is 62. Two, how many ways you can choose 2 from out of 6? 62 is 15. Then you can take 1, 2, 3, etc. That means 63. 20. Then 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 elementary. Before which is again 15. Then 5 elements. Yeah. 6. In this full set, 1, and the null set 1. Okay, so what are the events? Let's have a look at this event. Your even phase coming on top is in this set. 2, 4, 6 will be there. Great. Anyway, there are total 64, 2 raised to 64 events possible. Like 20, 50, 64, including the null set. Okay. If it's a die and you are throwing in, what's the event? This event means no phase comes on top. So that will have probability 0. Because some event will anyway happen, some phase will anyway come on top. This is any phase comes. So always, that's it. So its probability may be 1. Okay. So it's a certain event. So there are 64 events. Now if you look at what's the relation between these sets and this set. So this whole thing is collected and you say these are the events. Let us call it F. Okay. It's the whole set of this thing. Not only this also will include mega also. Mega and mega. Now if you look at this, this F is the set of all subsets of omega. Okay? Set of all subsets. Now, okay, this F is the set of all. So events constitute subsets of samples. That's simple, right? I mean, there are samples with all the possibilities. If you take sum of them, then that's an even. Okay. So now the question is, if you have a set of subsets, okay. See, if you have a set of numbers, then what things can yesterday was to discuss? If you have a set of numbers, okay, let's say real numbers, okay, or integers. What are the operations that you can do among the elements? You can add, or you can multiply, okay, or you can divide or subtract, or all these things. So you want to know whether the set is closed under that operation. Why? Otherwise, it will be very difficult to work with that set. Because under some operations, you will reach a stage where the output, the result is not in that set. So you cannot work with that. So you want to make things complete. In analysis, you see Cauchy sequences and all. In analysis, calculus, you always work with convergence sequences. Okay? Every integral is in fact a convergence. Even though you write it like that, it's a sequence and it is converging from. So all the sequences in that space you want them to converge in that set. If the limit points are not in that set, then you have trouble working it. Okay? That's why for the real numbers, you have added minus infinity and plus infinity, even though they are not numbers. They are like concepts. No, they are in fact, they are like limit of some sequences. They are not numbers themselves. They are outside the real numbers. But you put in them there so that you can say that okay, there are some sequences which the limits are infinity, they are also included. Okay? So same way, though not so complicated, whenever you work with an event space, you want to be sure that the operations between the elements should not result in some ambiguous problem. I mean, all the operations should result in element within the set. Here, it's a set of subsets. So the elements are sets. So what are the operations? It's not addition or anything. Between sets, what do you do? Unions, intersections, and complements. In fact, two of them are sufficient. Complements and unions, and complements and intersections. That De Morgan's law, you can always get that. If you have union, you can find intersections. So either of them. So what you want is, when you choose a thing, now you should look at it like this. In this case, because it's a simple set, finite set. Simple means it's a finite set. You can list all the subsets. In some cases, it may not be possible, or you may not want to list and deal with all the sets. I'll just give an example. You have a die, and you are playing, okay, gambling. Okay? But that day only 2 persons are there, or something like that. Or maybe the gambling is that if it is even faces, I win. If it is odd, you win. Something like that. So you are not worried about whether it is 2 or 3 or 4. So you have only 2 units, even and odd. What's the union of even and odd? Entire set. Okay? Intersection is null set. So you have this set now. See, omega is still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But now your event set is one is even, that is 2, 4, 6. This is one set. And the other set is 1, 3, 5. Then the omega, then 5. Here are 64 sets here, events. There are only 4 events are there. This is also an event space because under all set operations it's closed. You do intersection, whatever it is, you get back. Or even coarser things, let's call it F1. This is the coarsest level. Okay. You see, the finest level is this. You cannot go beyond this. Finest splitting, you get up to 64. But in between, this is the coarsest. You have only these 2. The union is omega. Intersection is none. You not do anything else. Complements are also there. Complement of this complement. So this is a slightly more finer. You can have other things simply by adding. How? By filling up. Okay. Suppose you started with 1. So the complement should be there. So 2, 3, 4, 5 add. If you have another, then the union anyway will be there, intersection will be there. If you have 2 also, then 1 and the union should be there. It keep on adding. So what is happening is, this is a simple example so you can really see. But in any case, if you know these few events are needed for my definition, then you make sure that the complements and the unions and all those things put together. You build up an algebra. Okay, that's called a sigma algebra of sets. Okay. Simply filling up the remaining things so that it becomes closed. Okay. So if you start at any with some elements from some subset, you can construct a sigma algebra with that by filling in the unions and complements and intersections. That is a sigma algebra, and that can work as your event space. Okay. This is very clear, right? This is what event space. Now the problem is, as far as the finite sets are concerned, there are absolutely no problem. In fact, the power set, what's the power set? Set of all subsets. That can be the thing. All your constructions, all your intermediate level event spaces are going to be subsets of the power set. And there is absolutely no problem. But the moment you go to uncountable sets, uncountable sample spaces, then the problems come up. Before that, just one point I make here before I a bit of. And now there is a question. I have a sample space and I have events. Now, why do you do all these things? What's the purpose? The purpose of probability theory is to calculate some probabilities for some events for which we didn't know the probability. There are some events which are important to us, and we want to know what's the probability of that event. So obviously, that means, suppose let us stick to the finite set case. So there is a power set, okay, and there are some events for which you don't know the probability. That's the situation, right? That's why you want to compute. And how do you compute? I'll take this example. Let's say I want to compute the probability for this event. What's the probability of 1, 3, 4, 5? What's the probability? Anybody? How will you compute? Yes. No. This is a number of, nothing to do with that. There is only one event like this. What 15 is in fact other events. Events who are having 4 singletons. Nothing to do with this number. So let's ask a simple question. What's the probability of 1, the phase 1 coming on top? How do you know? 6 phases. Now, how do you know it's 1 by 6? Yeah. Saguni diagonal. Saguni exercise. It will be ordered. Saguni is weight again. Fair diagonal 1 by 6. This fair die, even though it looks like a social thing, it's fairness. In fact, fair is physics. Fair simply means it's homogeneous. Okay, every angle is perfect and all those. So it's a physics which gives you the 1 by 6. If you know the physics, it's different. And if you know the physics, then you can compute. What I am saying is the probability value that P of 1 is equal to 1 by 6, if it is not provided by probability theory. Probability theory cannot provide that value. How will it know? Probability theory doesn't do that. It's a very simple thing, but I am just making you come to that focus. Everything you know already. See, P of, if you assume it's a fair die, then this is also 1 by 6. So in fact, what you are doing is, this set 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you are assuming, you are assigning, right? You are assigning probabilities. Each one you are assigning probability 1 by 6. Okay? From Q of physics. Okay? Or sometimes even physics is not helpful, then you say a priori. When you don't have a knowledge, you assume. Like Bayes' prior analysis. You assume something. because it's better than not doing the problem. You assume that this is it and then try to get the result, and from the result you try to go back and put that result back as a prior. That's the way kind of thing. So once you get this, then any of these events can be worked out. Okay? Once you know that, then how do you work out this? Suppose you know, again this is a very simple thing. Suppose you know that P of 1 is equal to, this is known, okay? Given P of 1 equal to 1 by 6, P of 2 P of 6 equal to 1 by 6. Suppose it's given, then how do you calculate this? Now you already know, right? It's yeah, 2 by 3, okay, 4 by 6. But how did you compute it? Not independent, it's mutually exclusive. Disjoint. Because you know that when 1 happens, 2 does not happen. Okay? So what you do is you write it as P of 1 union 2 union 3 union 5 and 2 is 5. Okay? Then, since they are disjoint, we write it as, we add the P of 1 plus so that is disjoint. So already we have used all the basic things. In fact, these are the axioms. The most important axiom of the probability axiom. Right? What is the probability axiom? Probability is always greater than 0, greater than or equal to 0. And the probability of sample space is 1. Full certain event. Then the third axiom is disjoint events, when you compute the probability, they add. Okay? If the probability of union of some disjoint events is the sum of the individual probability. That's the third one. In fact, the third axiom you can extend it to countably infinite additions. If there are disjoint events which are countably infinite, first event, second event, F1 after X1 infinite, still it will converge. So that's the third axiom, finite or countably infinite. So you are already using the third axiom and you are computing it. So the success given probabilities for a few events, probabilities for some related events can be computed, and the only mechanism by which computation is done, even if you do whatever high-end probability theory, the only mechanism is this additivity of disjoint. That's the only thing. So that's why we say there are the axioms of probability, those three things. In fact, everything is built up on top of that. So in this example we saw most of the constructions, so let us get a little bit more. Let us get a little bit more abstract. We want to build a little bit more, so let us all the same concepts, let us have a picture, okay, and in a more theoretic proper thing. So what we have is, we have a sample space omega, one element maybe let us call it omega. Okay. So this is a set, so this is an element of the set. In the voltage across the resistor case, this set is the set of all, maybe the all real numbers, because it may be positive big values, negative big values. So you can take a big set. And this particular one omega is one real number. Okay. It's clear. And if the voltage value is 0, then an event in this case, a voltage, a noise voltage of an event in this case, so I am not looking at the entire waveform right now. I am looking only at time at a particular time, t equal to t0 at this moment. At this moment, this ensemble is there, entire ensemble is there. So one event is One event, can you give an event at time t equal to t0, can you define some event? Just what's the sample space? Entire real line. Okay, all the values that voltage could have been. Entire values. So give me one event, something which could have happened. The value taken is, yeah, value is positive. That's an event. In fact, that's half of that sample space. Okay. So that's an event. Negative is an event. Exactly 2 volt is an event. Okay. An interval is an event. Union of 2 intervals is an event. Either the voltage is between 1 volt and 2 volt or minus 1 and minus 2 volt. It's a union of 2 intervals. Anything that you can think of in terms of sets, subsets, is an event. There's no problem. It's guaranteed. There are sets which you cannot easily think, like Vitalis, which I myself won't be able to define. I need to look at a book, which are not allowed. In the continuous case, there are sets which are pathological sets for which no integral can be defined on top of it. Okay. So such sets are not allowed. So we will, while doing the definitions, we will take care of that by a simple mechanism. So that we will see. But you don't have, it's only a technical thing. Most of the work that won't matter, because all the things will work. Everything that we can assume, everything that you will come across in the physical world will work. Any measurements will all work. So no problem. But when you define it, we will define it. Okay, so you know what are the events. So those events are all subsets of this omega. So let us collect all of them together. It's a big problem. How many subsets are there? Uncountable infinite number of subsets. In this case, if it was the throwing of a die, then this set would have only 64 elements or less if we choose a course of sigma algebra. Anyway, here we have a set, let us name it F, which is in fact an element here is in fact a subset here. Subsets of these things connect together. A subset becomes a point. Okay. Subsets of sample space are the elements of event. And together with that, this is also a sigma algebra. Sigma algebra is just a name, it just says that it's closed under set operations. All the set operations include. So there is no problem. Now what is missing now? The probability itself. So probability is, probability is assigned to an event. Right? So it's a mapping from this F to what? Probability, let's say probability is a function. It takes in subsets here. Okay, let's say a subset. And to that subset, that event F, it assigns a probability value. What's the value assigned? Between 0 and 1, some probability between 0 and 1 is assigned. So what is the codomain of that value? Probability value. It goes to real line. Probability value is the real. So this set is the real number line. And between 0 and 1, some values are another set, another event assign a value, probability. Another event assign a value. All cases of assignment. Only thing is, this assignment P should satisfy the 3 axioms of probability. It should be consistent. No? You cannot have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 each given value such that when you add up it is more than 1. It's not possible. So that should be satisfied. That's what I mean by saying it should be consistent with the axioms of probability. Axioms of probability take care of it. Okay. So what is P? P is a function from. P is a function from. P is the probability measure. P is a function from F to R. In fact, F to 0, 1. Okay, but let us stick with this. So this is called the probability measure. This is the event space. So just this is the foundation for the theoretical foundation for the entire probability theory. This is finished. Okay. This is in fact finished. But you must have done a lot of probability theory so used it. Communication, for example, correlation receiver, you find the probability, the symbols, noise, etc. So did you ever use integrations over? So that's a bad example because the set itself in the correlation case, correlation receiver case, that set itself, this event space itself, omega itself is the real number. And when the output of the correlation receiver, see, you send a signal, let's say PSK, finally it is received, integrated, right? It's multiplied with the same signal, so you get like this, then you integrate it over this set, even though you draw it like this, in fact, one symbol period is going to be only this much, right? Not the full thing. So you integrate it over that, so the integral will go like this, the output will grow like this, and it will reach to some value. This is the real line, some positive value. Or it may go, with the other symbol, it may go to some minus value. So let's say E or minus E, right? So depending on the noise here, the value may hover around here, it will hover around here. Okay? The noise is too high, there's a probability of crossing this mid mark, right? So that once it crosses here, there is a wrong detection. This also can cross to the other side. All your hypothesis testing is built upon top of it. But it's not a good example for me because this itself is a real line. Okay? You know, mapping later happens. So any event here is probability is all those things. So finally, I'm jumping the thing, but we'll come to that. There will be a distribution like this correlate output value lying if conditioned on one event, in the probability that it will lie here around T will have a higher value. Here will be another thing. Then this tail probability will errors, right? If you integrate on top of that. But all these things, you are doing all these integrations, right? Over sets. Right? Integration is done over sets, but the sets, underlying set is real line. Right? See, when you do integration, okay, how many kinds of integration you know? You've been doing integration since your 11th standard, right? Okay. Most of the time you do integration over real numbers, real lines, function defined over real lines. Is that what you always do, right? And sometimes in electromagnetics or somewhere you do over 3D, right? High dimensions. How difficult it is, you know. And you are done on complex plane, right? Integration of the complex, you know how difficult it is because you don't have access to time. So integration itself is difficult. So think about doing integrations over arbitrary sets, not real numbers or anything. Arbitrary sets, because this original mapping P is for defined for each point. Suppose you have a subset like this, which is F2, let's say. And you have to do the integration of P over that set to get the probability value. Just like disjoint events, this set is consisting of disjoint singleton things. Okay? If it was a discrete set, the sample space is discrete, then obviously the event space will also be discrete. Discrete things. Okay? Then we can add. It is continuously integrate. There is no escape. So doing integrations over arbitrary sets is unthinkable. Okay? For each integration you have to separately find the technique. Okay? So because of this, we want to do work only in the real line or multidimensional real spaces. Okay? So what to do is, this omega is the starting point, sample space. The sample space is your for which you have no control. So for every experiment there is a sample space. It may be some set. So that set you map the whole set sample space to the real line. Okay. It's possible. You for every element in the omega, you assign a real number. See, in the die-drawing instrument, if originally I have put faces of animals on top of this, lion, camel, tiger, etc., then you will need a mapping like this. So lion is 1, it's 2, etc. Or head and tail, you take it as 1 and 0 or 1 and minus 1, something like that. Okay, that's the explicit mapping. If in the beginning itself you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on face, then the mapping is implicit, already it's mapped. Okay. Same way in the resistor case, the voltage is usually a real number. So it's already in the real number. When already the mapping is there, you don't have to do the mapping. Because you are already working in this. Okay. But in general, since you may not have thing, you bring it down. Okay. And then let's say that mapping, what's usually functions called? F of something, F of omega, right? This omega. So omega goes to something. It's a real number, right? F for G, or that's the usual function, small x or G. But the notation here is used capital letters, x, y, z, etc. Okay? So that mapping. Okay, right? So this mapping, bring it here. Now what will happen to the entire ready phase? You have a framework here. You have the set of subsets with no algebra, then on top of that you have the probability. So all these things will get reflected here. So the omega comes here. So what will be this? This will be not this. Okay, anyway, let me draw it. It's not a real line, but here what we have is, instead of the F, for example, let's say there is a subset F. What is it? It consists of, let's say this. This F is in fact a set of a subset in this. So each element under X will come here. Okay? So another element will come here. You connect all of them together. So what you are doing is this F you put inside, put into the mouth of this X. See, X is defined for a single element, but you can always overload it with lot of elements into it. So each one will be mapped to this R. Okay? So any subset here will be mapped to the subset on R. There is nothing wrong with it. There is it will happen, right? Whatever it, whether it is continuous or whatever it is. So the entire F similar to that, there will be construction here. Okay? But then you make sure that because of that problem says that there are subsets in R which are pathological, for which you cannot do integration. So you make sure that when this mapping is there, X, you think about an inverse mapping. It's always possible. You go back, 3 images, inverse images. So you make sure that a set here, a subset of R, let's name it B, and I'll tell you why I am using B. Any guess? B. Anything can be a subset of R. I call it B. It can be F or something. F I am really using there. That's why F in this F matrix. That's why I don't want to use. So suppose there is a subset B. Then find the inverse image of X inverse of B. What will it be? It will be a set here, right? X inverse of B will be a set here. Each element in B, you find the inverse image. Connect all of them there. So you will get it. So make sure that under this mapping, every X inverse B is an event in our event space. Okay? Make sure that it is just making sure. Okay? It's like defining a place where you can safely do your calculations. So what's this condition on? This is the condition on the function X. The function X should be chosen in such a way that it should not create any problem. Meaning, any subset of this real line, when its inverse image is taken, it should be an even. If this is satisfied, such a function x is called a, well, somebody told. What do you call it? That function x. There is a very famous name for it. Yeah. That's it. You're right. Random variable. Yeah, that's a random variable. So x is a random variable. So it maps the purpose of bringing on such a definition on top of this. See, this omega f p is itself sufficient for the entire thing. But we bring in an x so that the whole structure is now replicated in the real line. Okay? Okay. Now let us discuss a little bit more about the subsets of real line. What can be a subset of the real line? You know what's the real line, right? Real number system. Now, is this a subset of real line? It's a subset. Okay? So a comma b, where b is greater than a, is a subset. What's the difference between these two? This is a closed and this is open. The limit points are there. If you define any sequence here, the limit when all the limit. But if you remain any sequence here, the limit points will always exist. Because the limit can never go beyond that. Now there are other things. A comma b. Semi-closed. Then just a singleton element. Let's say singleton A. 1 point. So it's a subset. Then what about unions of this? A single point and an open interval. Union. That's again a set. Because if you have some two sets, you can always find the union or intersection or whatever it is. So there are infinite possibilities of subsets. Obviously, the real line itself is one of the biggest sets we know about. The infinite subsets are already there. For all of those subsets, this X inverse we should create. But okay, we will restrict. Suppose we know that our voltage values are going to be between minus 10 and plus 10. Then what you do is, you consider only subsets of R which are within this. Because you don't want to, you are restricted. That's always there. But simply you say that A is your range and you take intersection with this set of subsets of R, which I will audit. And tell what it is. This is the sigma algebra defined on R. What is the sigma algebra? Even space. Okay? So on the real line, you can define even spaces, meaning only what even spaces? Sets of subsets of the real line, such that all their intersections and complements are all within that. Okay? So how do you create sigma algebras? From, if you have 1 and 2, then how do you create sigma algebra? 1 is in the discrete case. You add the complements, then you take the union, then you take the same thing here. The only thing is you can only talk, you cannot really do it for the infinite sets. We really just say that okay, this is how it's done, and we have to deal. Now just think about open intervals. I can't rub off, let's work there. Let's use that. Okay, let us take A, B, some open interval. Okay. Now think about all possible open intervals. Or finite, not infinite, but A and B can be any value. B greater than B. All possible options. And think about completing the sigma algebra. So bring in all the complements. And you can do these unions and intersections countably infinite times. Okay, for example, suppose I define 1 by n minus 1 by n to 1 by n. This is an open interval where n is equal to 1, 2, 3. So you have a set, let's say, this is a set un into this. Now think about intersection of this UN. N equal to 0. Infinity. What will be this set? See, 1 is 0. 1 by 1 is 1. Minus 1 by 1 is minus 1. The first set is this set. Open interval. The second set is going to be 1 by 2, 1 by 2, right? Second set is this. Minus 1 by 2, 1 by 2. Third is going to be 1 by 3, 1 by 3. It's becoming smaller and smaller. So when you take the intersections over all of them, so this is U, not U. What will happen if they infinite intersections? In the end, what will be the intersection? 0, the single point 0. So a single point 0 is in fact in the sigma algebra of open intervals. Okay? So any singular singleton point can be created by this. And if you have any open interval, you can take union with the end point singleton point. So you can, all the closed intervals are also inside. Okay? So that's the power of having infinite intersections and union. In fact, all those intervals that you can think about, all those subsets that you can think about will be part of the sigma algebra created by the open intervals on R. And that sigma algebra on event space generated by all finite open intervals. This is defined as, this is what I thought there is B of R. This is called a Borel sigma. Borel, the name of the term. It's a huge construct. Okay, so all of them will be, all those sets are available here. You can take whatever you want. Like now, what remains is, let it be there. Okay, we'll come back to it. Okay, now to complete this, I said no, we are replicating the entire structure. This structure we will name it as omega f p. Sample space, event space, and probability measure. Okay, together, they together work out the framework. So we call it the probability space. Omega p. Now we are that probability space. We are bringing it down to. So we have come up to this. We have the sample space by simply doing a mapping by a random variable x. Then that itself simply results in recreation of the events here. So there is the events on the real line here and the events on the real line here. Okay. And then what remains? This mapping P. So a B here, I said B here, should be assigned a probability here. Okay. Since it is under the mapping X, let us name it EX. Because that I don't want to confuse between that probability measure. This is different. Okay. What should be the probability assigned to this B? There is a subset B which is an element of the Borel sigma algebra on R. So such elements we will call it Borel set. Borel set simply means B is an element of this sigma algebra on R. So if B is a Borel set within our jurisdiction, within our interest area, what probability should be assigned to that? We cannot assign arbitrarily. We should assign the corresponding probability there, because you take that B back, take the inverse image of X, so you will get X inverse of B. You know that by the way X is defined, this will be an event. That's how X is defined. So this particular X inverse B, let us call it F, that has already a probability mapping under P, right? P of X. That should be assigned. Okay, so that this mapping will exactly match. Okay. So the thing is like this: probability Px of B is should be same as P of x inverse. Okay. That's common sense, no? We can't do anything else. It's already there. So this completes it. So we have a different name for this. This is called distribution. Distribution function. Let's say distribution. Okay. Function we may confuse it with cumulative distribution. That also is called distribution. This is different. This is distribution. Okay. And this is the most fundamental thing. In fact, your PMF, probability mass function, probability density function, cumulative distribution, all are coming out of this. For discrete, it is PMF. For continuous, it is CDF. If it is differentiable also, then we get PDF. They are all come derived from this. This is the fundamental concept, Px. So this is the basic abstract place on which we will start building now. And funny thing is, we can show that this Px, since this Px is in fact probability measure of some event, it will satisfy the axiom 1. We always get that 0. Okay? And whenever x inverse B is omega, then it will be 1. So that also is satisfied, and nothing else can be greater than that. So second axiom is also satisfied. Third axiom will also be satisfied because of the property of x. So something like this. The way we use x, so yeah, each time let us do this way. Px, what do you mean? Px of the union of Pi. This is same as E of x inverse of union. Simply taking x inverse and instead of Px probability measure. But this is in fact same as probability of x inverse united can be that U1 because of the property. But x inverse P, if you assume Vi is assume Vi is equal to 1 minus 1 in that case, x inverse B will also be disjoint. Is the union. So that what you have is sigma P of the P of x inverse B is in fact Px of inverse B. Px of B. That's how we define that. That's the definition how Px is defined. So this is in fact sigma. So we get the union of disjoint subsets. See, the probability of the union is same as the previous one. Okay, it's the same thing, but because x is a verification function, it's that property also gets mapped. So what we have here is, if you have the real line R is the sample space, then there is a event space for sigma, and then the probability assignment Px distribution. This also behaves exactly as the probability space. So in fact, this is the probability space. Nothing stopping choosing real line as your omega. So you can forget that. You can work on top of it. And what's the benefit? I think we will start doing after tea. There should be some benefit for doing all this, bringing all this down.
Hello, 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 hello.
ഇതല്ലേ, ഇവിടെയാണോ അതോ ഇവിടെയാണോ? ഇതിൻ്റെ ക്ലിപ്പ് തിരിഞ്ഞിരിക്കുന്ന പോലെ എൻ്റെ മൈക്ക് സാധനം. ഇതാണെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു കറക്റ്റ്. ഓക്കെ, ആ ഓൺ ആണ്. ഹലോ, okay. So we'll see why we are doing it. Okay. Why do we do all these things? Okay. Just to have a look at it. Okay. I think I'll go straight to one important. See, you know PMF, PDF, CDF, all those things you know, right? Okay. And if a course we have been using it, right? Mass also. Okay. Probability mass function, probability density function. കേട്ടിട്ടില്ലേ? അറിയാമല്ലേ? അല്ല, PDF നമ്മൾ എല്ലായിടത്തും ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നത്, ഫിസിക്സിലും എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗിലും മൊത്തം ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നത് അല്ലേ? പിന്നെ അത് CDF അല്ലെ, ക്യുമുലേറ്റഡ് ഡിസ്ട്രിബ്യൂഷൻ ഫംഗ്ഷൻ. വിച്ച് ഈസ് മോർ ഫണ്ടമെന്റൽ among these? Fundamental in the sense, see, if you have PMF, it's only for discrete, right? Probability mass function. For discrete values you have when we looked at that pointer example, rotating pointer example, the pointer coming to a particular value, a singleton value of theta 0 is 0 probability, right? Right? But in the case of PMF, where do we use it? We use it when such singleton events have finite probabilities. Okay? That's when we use PMF. So if you can take care of that in using delta function, that's another thing. And PDF is when is it? When it is continuous. Okay, when the sample space is continuous, right? And CDF, cumulative distribution, when does it work? Is it for continuous case, continuous random variable, or discrete random variable? Yeah, continuous or discrete? CDF, cumulative distribution function. It's for continuous, it's used, right? Because we differentiate it to get PDF. Is it used for discrete also? It is used. It's common for both. It's the more fundamental thing. It's the more fundamental. CDF is the first thing. Then if it is differentiable, we can get PDF from that. Okay? If it is not differentiable, at some points, at those points we will have finite probability value, jumps.
Okay. Okay, I think we will CDF cumulative distribution function, usually fx. X is the random variable for which it is done, and there is this dummy variable x. This is defined as, remember, probability, random variable takes on a value. Okay, this is the, remember this, okay. Probability that the random variable x takes on values all the way up to x, that x takes values less than x. Okay. So, you know that this is already now mapped to, this x is a real number. Why I know it's a real number? Because x is a random variable, already that mapping has happened. So in the real line, suppose this is x value, then what we are looking at is this set, the entire set, that is minus infinity to x, okay, including x, semi-closed. Okay. So what we are doing is, in fact, this is corresponding to, in fact, we are asking the probability that Px, okay, this is probability means not with corresponding any such notation, just probability. Px of this set, Px acts on Borel sets, subsets of real line. This is a subset. So this subset minus infinity to x. In fact, the probability of distribution of this set is what is here. Okay. This is the fx of x. Just this definition, x less than or equal to x, this is the set. This is the set. Okay. Probability of this set. Okay. Now, the funny thing is, what's the ultimate purpose of this, doing all these things? For any given Borel set, meaning any event on real line, why we are talking real line? Because we have already come down to real line. We don't speak about arbitrary sets anymore. Our world is now real line, Borel algebra, that's the event space on R and the Px. Now we come down to real line, what's the purpose? Given any Borel set, that is any event on R, we want to compute we should be able to compute the probabilities. Of course, from a elementary set the probability is given. Okay, for few, that's always thing. You need to know the probability from physics for at least some events. Then you can compute the events, other events using the additivity principle. Okay, that's the picture still. So now the question is, if this fx of x, the CDF, is only assigning probability to events like this. Events like this means this set, then maybe up to this. This is, let's say, x1. Then up to this, all these kind of sets. But all of them, infinite sets, but for a given x there is only one set. A, B, C, etc. Each value, any real number given, finite real number given, there is a set associated, semi-infinite set, for which the probability is none. Those probabilities are what? Fx of x, no? Fx of x is in fact this probability values. This value is in fact, you know that this goes to 1, right? The maximum value is 1. That happens when it is infinity. The entire range, okay, whatever the random variable takes on some arbitrary real number, that's certainty. It will happen there. The voltage across the resistor is some real number. That's the certainty, that is 1. For any other thing, as you restrict your set, you come up to this x, the probability is only this much, up to this. So these are probability values for this set. So this is, in fact, you have to treat this as, in fact, the non-probabilities. Okay? See, for your diatribe example, set 1, set 2, set 3, those 6 events, if you assign the probability 1 by 6, then you can compute the rest, right? In fact, you need not start from that. You could have given the probabilities for 1 is 1 by 6, probability for 1, 2 is 2 by 6, probability for 1, 2, 3. Similarly, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The other one already you know. 3 by 6, 4 by 6. Suppose this was the original probabilities, non-probabilities. You can still find the others, right? Because so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 singleton events need not be the first starting point. You can start from these 6 sets. 1, 1, 2, 3, etc. and the full set omega. That anyway you know the probability is 1. That also can be the starting point. Okay? Or some other thing can be a starting point. There may be other starting points. Okay? There is a minimal set for which the probability should be known. So in this case, this is the minimal set. All the sets of the form minus infinity to x. All such sets such that x is a real number. So huge set, all such open intervals for all kinds of x. This is your starting point, and for each one the probability is assigned, and that is this curve fx of x. So from this, is it possible to compute the probability for any arbitrary event? If it is possible, then this is fine. Okay? Now, any event means it should be BFR, borrowed sigma algebra or not. And what is that? It's a sigma algebra of all open intervals. Right? Now the funny thing is, this is an open interval? No. This is not an. But you can show, today I think we are going too slow. Okay? But just using set theory you can show that any such semi-closed, semi-infinite interval can be constructed using those borrowed sets by infinite. You can just plug in, just up to x, then plug in that x singleton value. You can always create. So what does it mean? This set, this entire set, the starting point set, is in fact a subset of BR. Because any of these elements can be created using that. That the reverse is also true. Okay? Any open interval can be constructed from this. It's also possible by infinite intersections. Okay? So that is included in this, and this is included that. This, when I say this, it's not just this alone. You complete this to get to sigma algebra. Sigma algebra completed from the starting set, this set, all semi-infinite sets. That's one sigma algebra. That's another sigma algebra. And if this is we can show that this is a subset of that. Any element in this can be created from that. Any element there can be created. So it's the inclusion in both ways. So they are same. So the sigma algebra, whatever we are talking, that is, the conclusion is that this is sufficient to address every possible real set subset. Okay? Okay, anything in that set can be constructed through set operations. That means anything can be assigned probability through the same set operations. Only thing is you have to break it into disjoints. That's always possible. Using intersections you can always create into, if you have sets which are overlapping, you can use your intersections to create new sets which are disjoint. Then you apply this additivity property, and so that's what is happening. In fact, this is a complete description of the statistical properties of that random variable, this CDF. So up to the whatever we are doing, we can leave and we can use fx to represent the entire probability measure part. Okay? That's why in elementary probability theory you don't learn any of those things. You start from CDF, PDF, PMF differentiation, you still can work, everything else is possible. But this is what happens. Now there are a lot of basic concepts still remaining, but we will skip some and then move on, and let us discuss, cursorily let us discuss. Lot of things to discuss. Once you have CDF, suppose it's a continuous thing and you differentiate, you get PDF, probability density function. And then you can find the expected value, right? You know how to find the expected value. Integral x of x dx. Okay? If it is a discrete thing, then it's a summation. x into px of x, okay, small p, that's a PMF. Then you can also use the CDF to find the summations, right? What do? It's almost trivial. What did you say? X, fx of x dx, right? Now this you take together, it's in fact dfx of x. Okay, this kind of integrals you say Stieltjes integral. The good thing about this is it works for both continuous and discrete. Okay, for PMF also everything comes inside. Okay, that's expectation. Then there is the fundamental theorem of expectation. What is fundamental theorem of expectation? Let me just go through just to remember these things. Maybe you already know it, or maybe you don't know it as fundamental theorem. Okay. That is, if you have a function of x, if this x is a random variable, and let's say g of x is a function where g is again should be a well-behaved function. We call it a measurable function. Okay. Then what's the expectation of gx? Expectation of g of x, a function of x. This is gx fx of x dx. This is not, instead of x you put gx. That will work. Again, that can be proved again. Then what else? Okay, expectation, there are a lot of properties. I don't know, if something is useful for our discussion, we will look at that. But I don't want to go in continuous fashion. What else is there? For a single variable, single random variable, what are the other things you need to know? Expected values are there, and then what else? Okay, you can look at different expectation, x square, you can take moments, no? Expectation of the variable x or expectation of x square or expectation of x minus ex, you get different kinds of things. Okay, x minus ex, the whole square, you get variance. Okay, so you get different moments. What else can you do? Okay, there is something called characteristic function. Okay, we may need it. Okay. It comes from this, in fact. G of x, you take a particular kind of g of x, you have a characteristic function. It's just a tool. It's like using Fourier transform. It's a tool. If you need it, we will again come back. G of x equal to e raised to j u x. Okay. So g of x, a random variable is e raised to j u x. Now, expected value of g of x is the value of e raised to j u x. This is defined as the characteristic function, usually written mju of x. Okay. The characteristic function. Anyway, this is a tool. I think we will need it. Then we will see it. Okay, we will need it later on. If you reach central limit theorem, this is the easiest way to prove it is using characteristic function. Okay. Conditioning, you require two random variables. And what else is there? Is there anything which we left? One thing probably what we can discuss now is, I am not going to that, but what we can discuss is expectation, taking expectations, conditional expectations, when you have two random variables, is related to estimations, okay, parameter estimations. So we can connect it to estimation theory. And I think with single variable, I think more or less these are the things. I don't remember anything else. Okay. Now if you have more than one random variable, let's say random variable x1, x2, okay, just like if you have, say for just an example is when you have a random process, I have not defined what's the random process, but you have a random process, then at time t equal to t1 and time t equal to t2, if you observe this, whatever you observe here, you can model as xt1 and here is xt2, two different random variables. Okay. So if and they are coming from the same sample space. Okay, you can assume they are coming from the same sample space. Okay. So if you have two random variables, then just like it's not means it's the probability space is not rdr px. It will be, instead of r we will have r square. Okay. Instead of b defined on r square, px, okay, px fine. Px is just a symbol. Okay. Again, it will be distribution will be multidimensional, two-dimensional. All the PMF, CDF, all those things will be two-dimensional, defined over x and y. Okay. In the same way, you can have r raised to n. There are n random variables as a sequence. Need not be the time sequence. Then you will have a random vector. For which the corresponding thing will be r raised to n. Let's say n-dimensional thing. So all these events will be n-dimensional. Okay. This will be two-dimensional areas. Okay. Okay, now okay, if you have more than one random variable, okay, see with the random variable, with a single random variable, we start, see the most important or complete description is always this px or the derived things, that's CDF, fx of x or PM of px or that fx of x. Okay, these three are derived from this, okay, px. Okay. These are complete descriptions. Or entire statistical knowledge about that random variable is contained there. Okay. Now what about expectations, expectation of x or expectation of x square? They are partial descriptions. They don't contain the entire distribution. If you know the mean of a random variable, it's just one number. Where a distribution is a entire real line, okay, it's defined over the entire real line or the entire set, entire range space. Defined for the entire range. Range space means all the values that the random variable takes. They can be discrete or they can be continuous, it may be finite, compact, or it may be the entire R or it may be R square or whatever it is. So that entire range space is, the distribution is defined for the entire range space. Okay. From that you are getting partial descriptions, expectations, etc. Okay. So they are weak descriptions. They are not the full descriptions. So you can have more and more x square, x cube, skewness, kurtosis, etc. But still it is not complete. The complete description is always the distribution. Okay. So beyond the distribution there is nothing more known. If there is anything that's not known, it's not in the purview of this theory. Okay. Okay. Now if you have two random variables x1 and x2, then you have the joint distribution function, which will be px again, but you will am not deriving those things, I am just saying joint distribution will be joint CDF, because these things you must be knowing already, right? All of these things. Okay. Fx1, x2, x1, x2, which is defined over the two-dimensional plane. X1, x2. All those computing the probabilities from PDF, all those things you know. I think I don't want to discuss. You know how to integrate and get the values and all this, right? Everybody knows, right? It will be unnecessary repeat. Okay. Now, how do you get expectations? Use the same thing. Only thing is the integrations will be double integrations. Okay. So, if it is differentiable, you get x1, x2, x1, x2. Then the expected value of, if you want to find expected value of anything, let's say, x1. How do you get it? Integral x1 x1 x2 x1 x2 dx1 dx2. So this dx2 part will integrate out, and this part, when you integrate dx2 with this over x2, you will get fx1, the marginal, right? Integral dx2 alone, if you integrate, this will be the marginal. Okay, it's like x2 along this you integrate out, so that it will become a one-dimensional function. Okay, so that x2 dependency completely goes away. You're integrating, so you will get the marginal list. Similarly, if you integrate over dx1, you will get fx2. Okay, so this will take care, because the double integral will take care. So whatever you want to find out, squares or whatever it is, or x1, x2, if you want this, it will be expectation of x1, x2. I'm saying whatever you want, you can put it in product of x1 and x2. Okay, same way, and a useful measure will be if you have x, y random variables, then expectation of x, let's define it as ex, okay, same as this, and expectation of y as ey. Just to remove this brackets, unnecessary thing. Then you subtract mean from this, okay, so that this becomes a mean, zero mean random variable, and then what is this? This is the covariance kxy of x comma y. For all these things, the discrete cases are also there. The only thing is, this stands for all of them, but when you really go and compute it, you have sigma. This expectation, if it is continuous, you will do the double integration. If it is discrete, you will do the double summations. Okay. Now, if you have, okay, you can extend it to any dimensions, x1, x2, x3, etc. Okay. Not the covariance. Covariance is between pairs. Okay. But other distribution functions, you can fx and all those things you can have fx1, x2, xn. And if you want to find the derivatives, you find partial derivatives with respect to each one, so that you can get the other one. This extension is fine. You can keep on extending because it's just a distribution. if your sample space is high dimensional, you will similarly get distributions, high dimensional distributions. Okay, what is this called? Expectation of xy without removing the means. This is the correlation, right? The Rxy. Okay. Well, not x. This is not needed because this is going to give one single value. Sorry. Going to give a single value, right? Expected value. Any meaning? I'll leave this. I just want to leave these things and go to that random vectors and sequence. I want to go there and derive something. But before that, I just want to see whether something is missing. This is this covariance. Or correlation, whichever. Okay. See, I hope you have a physical idea, kind of, little bit. Okay. See that expected value when you take. Let us take a discrete case. Sigma x, and let's take this one. Okay. I don't want to deal with them, all those xn, yn, let's say. Yeah. Just a second. I'll stick with this, okay. Second one. Or if you assume that they are already 0, 0 is, means mean is removed, then it will be same as this. Okay. Now this is, as we saw in the first discussion, this is one realization. Okay. Just one realization of that thing. So for x, I am saying x is the random variable observed at time t equal to t1. Y is the variable xt2, which is observed at time t2. So there are two different random variables. As such, we don't know. It's the sampled versions at two different instances of the same random process. But we don't know how they behave. In fact, okay, how they behave. Is there any relation between them? A relation, when I say relation, is statistical relation, probabilistic relation. So if you look at one realization, okay, this has value. This is the value, and this is a positive value. Here it's a negative value. It's a positive value. Now from this one realization you cannot say anything in a statistical sense. Now what this is doing is it's doing an averaging. Expectation is in fact an averaging, okay, a weighted averaging in fact with the density function. What it does is, whenever I say averaging, it's a theoretical or probabilistic averaging. It's not the time average. We have not come to time average yet. So it's in fact a theoretical thing. So we are doing the averaging over which set? Over the ensemble. Okay. So what does it look like? See, maybe there is another waveform which goes like. So we have another pair. The first pair was this. This value was x1, and this value was y1. So you take a product of that, x1, y1. Okay. Now in the second one you have this value x2. And So this is the product. Now we have x2, y2. Okay. Similarly, you consider all kinds of such. So you have this is x3 and this is, let's say, y3. So you have x3, y3. So all of them, you do the averaging over this, add all of them. Okay, it's mental averaging, it's an infinite averaging in fact. So in fact it will be an integration finally. Okay, if it's a continuous process like this. If it's the discrete alphabet, this thing, this alphabet means the range. The range is continuous. If the range is discrete, it's taking only discrete values, then probably it will come to a summation. Okay. Now this entire thing, this summation or integration in this case, okay, I'm just representatively writing. You find products, okay, between the value here and value here. You have a product and do the entire summation of the thing. So what are the possibilities? Sometimes the first value will be negative while the second value is positive. Okay. Sometimes both will be negative, sometimes both will be positive. Okay. Sometimes the first one will be positive, second will be negative. All possibilities are there. Also the magnitudes also. Okay. Sometimes they will be nearly equal, sometimes this is small. All kinds of possibilities are there. So the products, you see that they take positive values, negative values, okay, 0, all kinds of values are there. Okay. Now when you do the averaging of all those values, what will you get? Will you get a positive value? Are you going to get a negative value? Or will you get 0? It's possible, many things are possible. If you get 0, okay, sometimes, okay, in this case for example, okay, I want to, both are same, okay, only thing is here the means are sitting inside there. Means, so it confirms our understanding. It's easier to talk about this, easy to compute this, but easy to talk about. Suppose we were already removed our mean initially, so that all realizations is 0 mean. Okay. In that case, what we are looking at is this way, this summation is in fact corresponds to this expected value. Expected value is simply the summation. So if suppose this summation gives you, theoretically it gives you 0 value. Okay. That means, what does it mean is, suppose this is a positive value. When you measured, you got a positive value here. Then you are trying to predict what can be the value here. If this is called, this is correlation. If 0 mean, this is 0 mean with correlation, we say covariance. The covariance is 0, that means there is no way you can tell it. It can be either positive or negative, big value, small value, whatever it is. It has its own, it's not independent, it's uncorrelated. Independence is different, okay? It's uncorrelated, these two variables. The measurement here and measurement there are uncorrelated if this is what happens. Okay? So sometimes no, this here the uncorrelated comes from the actual randomness. The true random means it's not related to this in any way. Sometimes even in systematic things, this uncorrelated things can come. Okay. Sin theta cos theta, there is an example usually given, right? Okay. Sin theta and cos theta, if you try to plot it, no, it will be a circle when sin values. So with the sin value, but they are not independent, but they are uncorrelated. Different, totally different concepts. Maybe with examples. This is uncorrelatedness. It has nothing to do with independence. Independence is in fact for random variables, independence is a very strict thing. What independence means is, I don't want to rub this off. Now let me define that also and then try to, because they are not related. Where do you have some space? Okay. let's see if we can, I think probably we can rub off that now. Okay, I think this is done. Um, how are let's look at different ways in which we write independence, okay, and then try to understand. If x1, x2 or xy, let's say xy statistically independent, in the distribution pxy same as pxpy px. Okay, same as okay. Similarly, PDF, these two are sufficient. Okay. Now, what this says is, if you have a f, which is a subset of this is the r and r, no, r square. This is two random variables. This is r. This is another r. So, in the r square plane, you have a, let's say, a subset f. This is a Borel set. Okay. Oh, I have been using B, right? Okay. Why did I write? I've been systematically writing B because this is Px, no, it's on B. So let's say there is a in textbooks, means in the textbook also F is used, but F I want to preserve it. I get confused otherwise. F I always want to give that probability measure. Okay. So this is true for all B. Element of range intersection with BR. Okay. For all subsets that you consider, all events that you consider, that's the difference. The elementary independence between events, two events A and B, you know, the conditional probability is not dependent on the second event. Okay. So conditioning has no effect. Okay. PA given B same as PA. So here it is, it's based on that, but here it is much more complex thing. It's a bigger thing. What it says is for every event B, every relevant event in your range, this should hold. Not just for any, for two random variables to begin. Because random variable is in fact mapping the entire RR into the it's again this is R. Everything is mapped to this RR. Okay, this is the codomain in fact. The entire sample space is mapped to this R cos R. Okay, and then for every event that you create, this should hold. Okay, so the way you asked the question, I am not able to. I am trying to connect. You can see that I don't have a ready answer. I am trying to connect. I mean, why should they are totally different concept for me. Maybe for some examples they may be uncorrelated, may imply independence, etc. But I have to see. Now my problem is I have not been teaching for long, so I am not able to coin examples. I may remember the subject, but example means I am not able to get it. Probably afternoon I will try to get it. Okay. So this is the independence of random variables. Now this is not sufficient. How can I? IID, if you take all afternoon I am working on starting from this. That's why I am not able to go back. If you have, for example, a random process, IID random process, independent, identically distributed. So this means, suppose it's a discrete random process. So you have this x1, x2, x3, etc. Okay, when I say it's the IID, these two are independent simply means when you write the when you the way to deal with infinite, this is an infinite sequence. So to deal with infinite sequences, the way is to think about finite distributions. You cannot have infinite distributions; they are not proper. So think about finite distributions. Let's say p x1, x2, etc., xk, or better still x0, x1, etc., xk minus 1. This will be same as px0, px1, etc., pxk minus 1. Okay, that's all it matters. Okay, now I am not giving you entity. I am sorry. Okay, I am not able to give you entity. Let us see. Whereas uncorrelatedness is in fact not related this way. It's related with the expectations. So this is stronger in fact. Uncorrelated says that the pairwise covariance is 0. So if they are independent, will they be? No, need not be. Independent need not mean uncorrelated. Uncorrelated need not mean independence. There may be occasions where they matter, meaning special cases, special occasions. Let me. I am remembering some example. Let me see if I hope I don't make any mistake. Just an example. Okay, let us say let theta be a random variable over, let's say, minus pi to pi or 0 to 2 pi. Okay. So theta is a random variable 0 to 2 pi. So it takes values between 0 to pi randomly. Now let's define x equal to sine theta or cos theta, whichever. Y is equal to sine theta. So they are g of x. The functions of random variables, so they are derived random variables. Okay? So x and y are also random variables. Now x and y are dependent, not statistically. I don't know about statistically. They are dependent because given if cos theta is known, then y can only take two different values, right? If cos is known, sine can only, because they come in a circle, right? Cos theta and sine theta. Now let us see. This is cos theta and this is sine theta, that is x and y. So theta takes a value, let's say 0. So cos 0 is 1, sine 0 is, so this is the point. So whatever theta takes values, it will lie in a circle. So it will be theta, depending on theta, this, what are these points? In fact, they are in fact pairs, x, y random vector, right? this point is in fact some x1 value, some y1 value. Okay. Individually where now now x and y, are they correlated? If you take expected value, both on 0 means, so expected value of x, y. You know what it is? Yeah. See, expected value x, y is, yeah. Yeah. If you integrate cos theta sin theta over 0 to 2 pi, it will be 0. Okay? Because it's coming from symmetry. In fact, it is randomness is not in that between these two. So they are uncorrelated. The covariance is 0. But they are not statistically independent. Because any event you take, okay, it's going to depend, because if given cos theta is this, then that conditions the thing, because it is dependent. Okay. I don't know whether it is a good example. Now, now what I want to plan is, okay, we have lost some time, but want to plan is, I mean, these things anyway, you already maybe have background, and if you want to learn, you take the Gray and Davison book and work out. Work out means read. A lot of pages are there, but everything is written so precisely. So initially, maybe only one difficulty you may come across, that is, it's written in mathematical language, which your MTech students are already familiar, okay? Like proof, etc. But it's not so, it's not completely dry. It means it connects ideas and it's written well. So if you can spend, and it's possible, because when my team, I had a research team with me, but being sitting in Trivandrum and then sitting in a service company, I was in Nest for some time. Okay, sometimes you don't get good people in your team, because when people join Nest, they are not expecting a research team or anything. We were not doing interviews separately. I was taking from whatever Nest is recruiting from campus or whatever. Out of that, I used to choose some people. So initially my team had people from almost very poor in academically poor backgrounds. One from some college in Trikkaripur, Cape College, I think. Then one person who did BTech in Tamil Nadu, some arbitrary college. Some people like that. So to build a team to work in signal processing and computer vision area is very difficult. So they should know linear algebra, they should know all this stuff, they should know estimation. At least they should understand, otherwise we won't be able to talk to each other. So it is very difficult. So one way I did was to ask them to, there's no way I can teach all these things. Because linear algebra itself means I need at least around 40 lectures to cover the basics. Around 10 to 15 lectures we can cover up to the dimensionality. Murali covered up to that yesterday in one day. But usually it takes so much time. And after teaching all these things, even if I teach 40 hours, it's of not much use to them unless they work out problems on their own. Okay? Linear algebra is very simple. You must have understood yesterday. It's very simple. In fact, it's a subject taught in undergraduate, BSc Maths, okay? First year or second year. Now we are teaching it in most of the colleges. First year itself, it's in the syllabus, engineering first year syllabus. So it's an undergraduate subject. Okay? But the problem is, it takes time to really start using those tools. You may understand, but you may not be able to actually use it. Okay. So finally, when you use it, you may be using it in a very intuitive way, linear algebra. Intuitive in the sense you won't be writing proofs or anything. Intuitively, you will be working. It will be very easy to work. You will understand things. Okay. You are working in some projection, mostly projections or orthogonal projection. It will come to you automatically. It means it's natural. But to reach that place, all those proofs have to be written. You have to write all those proofs and go through it. There is no other way. Okay. When you talk about wavelets, for example, you all learn wavelets. Okay. So describing wavelets through that subspace and complementary subspace, direction decompositions, all those is very easy to understand. You are not writing proofs there. Very easy to see how it works, all those things. But to discuss it and probably to use it in some other in a real sense, then you have to write all those things. So same way, this is slightly more difficult than linear algebra, because linear algebra you study only finite dimensional linear algebra, right? All those things that you learn are, what's it called? In fact, there is a saying that finite dimensional fiasco. You know what is a fiasco? Fiasco ഒരു വലിയ കാര്യമായിട്ട് വന്നിട്ട് അവസാനം ഒന്നുമില്ല. അതാണ് ഫിയാസ്കോ. മല പോലെ വന്ന് എലി പോലെ പോയി. അതുപോലെ ലീനിയർ ആൾജിബ്ര ശരിക്കും നിങ്ങൾ പഠിക്കുന്ന ഫൈനൈറ്റ് ഡയമെൻഷനിലാണ്. എവറിഥിങ് ഈസ് intuitive, meaning okay, you will know that before as you discuss, you know this will be like that and it will be like that. There is no counterintuitive things. There is no surprises. So much so that you will become bored. I never taught afterwards. I mean, I have never taught a formal linear algebra course anywhere. I never taught. I taught in courses, sometimes continuously for 4 days, something like that. But it's sometimes when people call me to teach linear algebra, I run away. It's very difficult to teach in 3 or 4 days or something like that. Okay, so, but this is slightly different. But the philosophy thing, you have to work a lot of problems, you have to think a lot. Okay, and then it will become so easy for you to understand and work. But if you are planning to do research, then this is one area where you cannot escape. Not even mechanically. All those people finally even at least the results. If it is some experimental part, then they have to justify. You have to draw the error bars at least, no? So you should know what it is. You know the error bars, right? 3 sigma or sigma. You will mark against. At least you should know. Anyway. So okay, why did I say that? Okay. So how should we? We have 15 minutes more before lunch break. Then one more session. So probably we will discuss some of the ideas rather than actually working out. We will try to work out, but main ideas. Ideas in the sense, the first idea we have already understood is the ensemble and all the averagings of the ensemble, and there are 2 different kinds of averaging. But this is the theoretical averaging. This is the actual theoretical part. Okay. Okay. What else? Okay, we saw the formal definitions and how the CDF comes and all those things. All those discussions, even though it is interesting, is of no practical use to you. All those x that measure, which should be a measurable function, all those things, you are never going to actually use it in your practice. But it is good to know, so that you will feel that you will become more confident that what you are doing, you have a hold over it. Okay, that's the only use. Similarly, means we will discuss some of the things. One thing is, when you have a sequence, next thing is x1, x2, x3. Okay, there is a random variable, sequence of random variables, or there is a see what is this sequence? This sequence is x n, right? Where n is 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Or sometimes n can be the z itself, double-sided sequence. Okay. Z is the integers, right? Or it can be z plus, then in this case, similar to this. Okay. So they are all indexed by an indexing set, 1, 2, 3, etc. So this indexing set is discrete, so we have discrete time random process. Okay. There are 2 things where discreteness and continuous things can come. One is the time axis, the indexing. So this is discrete time. Okay. And when that indexing is continuous, we usually write xt t element of some continuous set tau, some continuous set t. It may be the real line or it may be a subset of the real line, something like that. Okay. So both of them we call as random processes. This is discrete time random process, this is continuous time random process. Okay. Now there is another thing, the alphabet. The values that they take, okay, the value that they assume, x and y assume. If you have a queue, for example, okay, a server queue, computer in networks or somewhere. So the queue is incremented by one packet or one packet less, one is service. So it's always by 1, 2, 3, etc. The number of people waiting in the queue. It's not half people, right? Or half packet usually. Okay. So the values it can take is the alphabet, meaning the range is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative is also usually not there, okay, in the buffer. So that's the discrete alphabet. Whereas the resistive voltage is usually a continuous alphabet. So there are two things. So when you take all these things, now you are working with infinite sets. So until now, when you have a random variable, you can either work with the distribution, but the distribution is a full thing. But sometimes you want to need to know only the mean, or sometimes you want to understand how the two of them are related, autocovariance or covariance or correlation, whatever it is. Okay? So how do you compute all those things? They compute using summations or integrations, depending on whether it is discrete time or continuous. Sorry, discrete alphabet, right? Continuous summations, or in this case, yeah, right? Summations are discrete if it is alphabet is. So over that, no, over the range. Okay, the same thing when you try to do for this, then there is a problem. Summations and the summations need not converge. Okay, if it's infinite sequences, there is no guarantee that it should converge. Okay, or integrals, why should they converge? Integral can go to infinity very easily, right? You're doing integrations over minus infinity to infinity, or some parameters. So you have no guarantee that expectations will be there, meaning mean will it converge? Will the autocorrelation exist? All those things. Okay? Such questions are important. It means it's important in the theoretical sense. Okay? When you work, finally you may work only where such things happen properly. Okay? But the theory cannot be developed like that. Okay? So the question is, what does convergence mean? So I assume you are familiar with convergence of sequences, right? We don't have to discuss, right? Sequence convergences, geometric sequences, exponential sequences, all those things, how they converge. Now the problem here is, okay, my plan is to at least give an idea, means anybody who already know convergence of sequences, not sequences, random sequences. Anybody who are covered in course or MTech level, or okay, no, just to decide at what level. So we will learn at a conceptual level rather than going proofs. So it's important because to think, the whole thing is not just learning something, cramming something. We should know what this subject is about. Okay, or you can forget it after, but you should at least have an idea about what this is about. Okay, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പ്രശ്നം ഉണ്ടാവും. Okay. So the thing is, we need to work with expectations of random variables, and that solves summations and integrations. But in infinite alphabets cases and all those things, it can turn out to be, in sequences and all those things, it can turn out to be problem. Okay? Just for example, taking a mean of this, mean of this sequence. It's a sequence, no? X1, X2, X3, etc. So how do you do that thing? So let's say Xn, n is equal to 1, 2, 3, etc. Okay. So what's the mean? How do you compute the mean? You add all of them and divide by infinity? Huh? No, it's infinite things are there, no? Okay. So all these cases, whenever this infinite index set is there, the way you work with it is you consider finite things out of that. You consider 1 to n, okay, and then say that for every n. That's the way to get out of it. Okay, so you always go to finite dimensional distributions. Means whenever you pluck out n of them, n random variable, they have a joint distribution which is n dimensional. That's what I say finite dimensional distribution. If it is, then again, if it is a continuous thing, then again that's the problem. If it is xt, where t is an element of a continuous set t, okay, then again there is a bigger problem. Here it is 1, 2, 3, etc. I can pluck out n. Here what will I do? It's a continuous thing, t is continuous. How will I describe? How will I describe a distribution for that? Px, no distribution. How will I describe? What's the dimensionality? Uncountably infinite dimensionality is no use to us. Okay? Even though there are formal definitions which deals with infinite dimensionality, but what we do is you pluck out of that, you pluck out T0, T1, T2. Need not be they are in order, but they need not be uniformly spaced or anything. Somewhere finally you go to Tk minus 1, and for these xt0, xt1 up to xtk1 there are k random variables. So you have a k dimensional vector, I mean not vector distribution, p xt0, xt1 etc., xtk minus 1. Okay. This distribution you define for all k, okay, then it's fine. All finite k, and for all, not just k, for a given k, this choice of t1, t2, tk minus 1, t0, this choice can be different. Same k, you can take t0 here, t1 here, t3 there, etc., etc. So for all such choices, for all such k, such distributions exist. Okay, and in fact, there is a theorem which proof is beyond even my. I have not done the proof completely. Even though I have taken 4 or 5 courses in this area when I studied graduate so long back. Okay, means that proof was never covered. It's due to Kolmogorov. It's a fundamental theorem which tells that if you take infinite such all possible finite distributions are taken, then it takes care of the entire set, continuous set also. Meaning it's like this. There is a px which is for the ideal px, okay, distribution. These finite distributions are kind of putting constraints on that. Okay, so what it says is if you do for all finite k, all finite means k can be any big, but it's not infinite. If you do for all of them, then there is only one consistent distribution which satisfies all those distributions. Okay, that's the Kolmogorov extension theorem. Okay? That's the proof for it, but I have not done it. But this is the way we really, when you write, if you learn this subject at MTech level, okay, as a single paper, you'll be writing left and right this kind of things, even though you are working on continuous random variables. So always all the things are written with that. Okay. But then after writing down all these distributions, when you do the summations, for example, this is called sample mean. It's called sample mean because we are drawing out a sample. So 1 by n sigma, let's say I is equal to 0 to n minus 1 xi. Okay. So you take the first n and you find the average. Okay. What are these things? These are random variables, right? So you have x1, x0, x1, x2, etc., x n minus 1. Each one is a random variable. Now, one realization will be, what will be one realization of that n sequence? See, the sequence is x0, x1, etc., x n minus 1. One realization will be some real number x0, x1, etc., etc., xn. Another realization will be some other values, x1 dash, etc., etc. Okay. So we are dealing with the variables themselves. So when I average them, what am I actually doing? adding them. In fact, I keep it as an addition, but the moment I do expectation or anything, in fact, I have to deal with the entire ensemble. If I do expectation on this sum, but fortunately, all this expectation, all those things are linear. So that expectation of sigma of xi will be simply expectation of x1 plus expectation x2 plus etc. Okay? But this is what happens. Now, okay. Oh, sorry. Now for one realization, suppose one realization is there, this sum will be some particular value, x0 plus x1 plus x2 plus xn minus 1. That sum divided by n will give some value. Another realization will be another value, right? Where are all those values happening? There are possible values for this sample mean. The sample mean itself is a random variable, right? Right, because these are all random variables. So this is also not a single number. This has a distribution. So my question is, what is its distribution? Right? If I know the distributions of xi, what will be the distribution of it? What is the mean? Okay? If some other moments you want to know, then these are the questions you want to know. Okay? What will happen to the sample mean? Now, can you answer those things? If you know the distribution for xi, then okay, maybe you will need to know other things. Yeah, you may need to know how is x0, x1, x2, their distributions are related. Are they identical distributions? Okay, are they uncorrelated? Are they independent? These things will give different flavors. Obviously, by bringing these conditions, we are trying to simplify things. Okay, but fortunately, simple things are also useful. Best example is your linear systems. Whatever you are learning is such a simple system. A system can be, a system is, a real system may never be really linear. You take Ohm's law, for example. Resistor is there, you apply a voltage, there is a current which is proportionate. So V by I is a constant and you call it resistance. Okay? But when is V by I constant? Or a range. Okay? And that too, if you expand it closely properly, you don't know. Depending, because this resistance is coming from, where is it coming from? It's coming from the mobility problems within that material itself, right? There is an electric potential which is trying to drive the electrons. Let's say it's a metal like tungsten or something like that, where some resistance is there. So the electron put in that electric field will try to move. If it is free to move, what will it do? There is a constant force acting on it. It will accelerate. It will keep on accelerating. But does that happen? Doesn't happen. Why? Because even though there is a sea of electrons, it's in that sea of electrons itself there are other forces also. Means collisions are there. Okay. So because of these interactions and this, everything gets slowed down and finally it achieves a constant velocity, drift velocity kind of thing. Okay. So the good thing why it is kind of linearly working at least in that domain is because of the millions and millions of activities taking place. So it's a statistical sense that it is linear. The statistical is highly linear because it is maybe millions of things are interacting. So it comes to the average is very very good, meaning it doesn't fluctuate. See this SL itself, you saw that it itself is a random variable. Okay? What it means is, if you really try to do an experiment by tossing or whatever, this XI experiments, okay, so let us say some experiment which gives you a real value. Okay, so if you do it n times and you add it and you divide by n and get this number, you will get some number. But if you repeat it, you may not get it. Okay, so that itself has its own variability. The Sn has a mean, Sn has a variance, right? Sn has itself has a distribution. Okay. Now as you know, if you try to increase n, what will happen? How will it behave? Meaning instead of 1000 experiments you are doing 10,000 or 10,000, is it useful? Will Sn become a better estimate? Will it become a better estimate? usually, meaning under some conditions, if xi itself has, if its own variance is finite, okay, if its mean is finite, all those things, okay, then it may, okay. So these are the conditions. We know some properties, uncorrelatedness, okay, boundedness, okay, as a filter, means this is not, this itself is a filter with if you say 1 1 1 1 1 1, it's a filter. It's an FIR filter with all ones. 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 0 10 minus 1. If you, so the sequence passes through it. So there is the first sequence, first n of them come underneath. It sums, and there is a divide by n there. So the output will be this Sn. Okay, and in this case it's a moving average kind of thing. But you can think about extending n, getting in more and more and more n. Okay, or you can have, if you have weights to this filter, it will become, instead of this will become another thing in hi xi, or it will totally change. I need not write. It will become a convolution, of course. Okay, hi xi minus j. Okay, j xi minus something like that. Okay, so I don't want to mix it up. So many things inside here. So our questions are, okay, if Sn is something like Sn or some other thing extracted out of this random variables, if it is coming out of some summations or integrations, then will they converge? Okay, and what do you mean by converging? If it is a sequence, you know what's the convergence, right? If it's a sequence, real sequences, first is values here, second values here, then it comes nearer, 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 etc. So that if the terms are an minus an minus 1, if this magnitude is shrinking, okay, if it's something like you say, usually you remember, I think if you remember, how do you say sequence is converging? If you can find a capital N, okay, such that, large capital N such that, for when small n is bigger than n, then an minus 1, the difference is less than epsilon for any arbitrary epsilon. In fact, I should say small. So given any epsilon greater than 0, however small value epsilon you make, I can find an n such that above that n, the sequence difference between the consecutive elements will be small. That's Cauchy convergence. Okay. If you bring in the limit also, then limit is known, then you can, instead of a, you make the limit point a. Suppose a is the limit, then a minus, it gets as nearer, meaning the sequence gets as nearer to the limiting point as you want, beyond some n, beyond some sequence. And you are free to take any n because it's an infinite sequence. Then it converges, okay? But when I am talking about a random variable, a sequence of random variables, Sn is a sequence, S1, S2, S3, etc. It's getting better and better, or I don't know, better and better. Is it going to converge? In what sense is it converging? Meaning, it's not a single number. That itself is a possibility, it's an ensemble which is moving along. The ensemble getting narrower and narrower probably. Ensemble means the entire set of possibilities. Suppose it is getting narrower and narrower and narrower, then it is converging in some sense. So those sense in which it's converging, there is no single answer. We can capture it as convergence in distribution. It converges to this random, it's a random variable sequence. Finally it goes to another random variable and its distribution is, the distribution is converging. Initial distribution is very bad, finally it is converging. That's what one example we will see, Sunderland theorem, where whatever you start with, okay, whatever distribution you start with, if you add so many of them, but with some constraints that the mean should be finite and variance should be finite and all those things. If you add many of them, it will become a Gaussian. Okay, so it's a convergence in distribution. The distribution of this sequence finally becomes like Gaussian. Okay, same way other distribution, convergence in other senses, ergodic sense, that is a mean square sense. That's the random variable has values, this has values, you take the difference between them and find the square and mean square sense, x minus xn, absolute value, square it and find the expectation. If that is going, then you bring in that epsilon thing. Okay, if it is possible to make it as small as possible, in that sense. Or there is another one called convergence in probability. Okay. Then there is another one, just maybe the strongest one is convergence with probability 1, almost sure convergence. Okay, there are 3 or 4 different shades. And I think I want to discuss at least 2 things, but I don't know whether time. One is central limit theorem, because we can derive it. Time permits, it should take only 5 minutes. And then at least one ergodic theorem we should have a look at. Law of large numbers. Then I think we may not come. Stationarity and how we use it in the, maybe we skip one of these things and look at stationarity. Only in a qualitative sense. Okay, 12:40.